Hi there, I'm Nokito87 and this is a new video about my Highscreen 286 16 MHz computer. Today I will show you all the hardware in detail, run some benchmarks for you and of course some games that will push this machine to its limits. The reason why I'm doing this is that almost 3 years ago I already uploaded a video featuring this 286 system, running some games, mostly VGA games, also games that might be uncommon to play on a 286. And I got a lot of feedback to that video. Thank you so much for so many views and comments. And yeah, while reading all these comments I noticed that people still want to know more about the hardware, and some guys still won't believe that all these games were played on this very machine with only 16 MHz. So I realized that my old video was maybe a bit short on hardware information, and I thought it would be a good idea to make this hardware review to show you that there was no black magic involved. I know this looks like a total mess, but I decided to put all the cables on the table so you can see that there is nothing but my 286 connected to the peripherals. What you're looking at right now is the Headland HD12 286 motherboard, a modern 286 motherboard from 1991. That's the Headland chipset, single chip design, highly integrated. It comes with some very nice features that I will show to you later on when we enter the BIOS setup. Right next to it you can see the AMD 286 CPU. This is a 100% Intel clone, so CPU identification software will identify this AMD 286 CPU as an Intel 286 CPU. This Headland HD12 comes with 7 ISA slots, 5 of them are 16-bit. I only use 3 of them for this setup. Starting on the far right, that's my I/O controller made by Acer. It also serves as an IDE controller where my Seagate hard drive and the 2 floppy drives are connected to. In the middle, that's the graphics card. It's a Diamond Speedster 24X 1 MB, a very fast ISA graphics card from 1993. A very nice thing to have. It's actually a little bit faster than a Zheng Labs ET4000AX. And on the left, that's an Aztec sound card. I'm still not 100% sure which model that exactly is. I always thought it looks like a Galaxy Pro 16.2 old model, but the FCC ID code tells me that this should be a Washington 16. But I still haven't got it working with Windows 3.1 using the Washington 16 drivers. For DOS though, it is enough to initialize the card with the ZBlaster command. This mainboard also comes with 30 pin sockets for single inline memory modules. This is probably one of the more visible details of a modern 286 motherboard. There's also a socket for an 8287 coprocessor, but there's no need for it. This system was built for gaming and personally I don't know one single game that actually makes use of that 8287 coprocessor. So let's start this ancient powerhouse. I will also start my second camera so you can watch the hard drive LED and the megahertz display while we run some benchmarks and games. This is the BIOS setup or CMOS setup. I told you earlier that there were some nice features. One of them, or the most important one, is the zero wait state option. That means, if enabled, that the processor does not have to wait to perform memory access. Another interesting feature is the hardware EMS support. This allows a chosen amount of memory above 1 megabyte to be accessed as EMS. So it's possible to run a setup with conventional memory, EMS and XMS at the same time. This is the NSSI tool, a nice little hardware analyzing tool. This also comes with a CPU benchmark. You can see that this 286 CPU is already rated higher than a 386 SX CPU running at the same clock speed. That's mainly because the 386 SX CPUs are modern 32-bit CPUs internally, but still stuck on a 16-bit data bus. In short, this could mean that the 386 SX CPU will have to make two 16-bit accesses in order to get 4 bytes of code from the preftek queue to the data bus. It will also have to wait until the preftek queue is empty again before it could load the next 4 bytes, which will also take two 16-bit accesses. A 286 will load 2 bytes and send 2 bytes. This way, a 286 system and a 386 SX system are pretty equal in performance, but of course a 386 SX is able to execute programs and games designed for the 32-bit microarchitecture. I also heard that 286 systems clocked over 20 MHz will achieve skyrocketing results in benchmarks, results that can even put a 386 DX system to shame. It would have been nice to see 286 systems running over 25 MHz, but the first 486 CPUs were released back in 1989, so who would care about a 286 in the mid-90s? Let's just say that 286 microarchitecture was way ahead of its time when released in 1982. This is the alternate realities benchmark, better known as 3D Bench. There's also a 3D Bench 2, which is more optimized for faster systems. Since this is taking forever, I can already tell you that this 286 will score an average frame rate of 6.4 in this benchmark. That's absolutely fine for this system. A 386 DX25 will score something around 10, a fast 386 DX40 something between 15 and 18, and a fast 486 DX266 something around 50. Yeah, let's try some games. I want to start with Wolfenstein 3D. This game is still a fine tech demo and probably the best looking first person shooter available for a 286 system. I prepared a boss fight for this session. That should be the best way to show you some quick action instead of running through endless labyrinths. As you can already see, I lowered the screen size a bit to increase the performance. There are still some frame skips, but nothing to be worried about. It runs smooth enough to enjoy a full playthrough on a 286.
Eine kleine Amerikaner.
Ein kleiner Amerikaner mit einer großen Waffe.
Donnerwetter! Donnerwetter!
Now I want to move on to the racing genre. There were countless races in the late 80s and early 90s that were using 3D polygon graphics, and racing games are supposed to be fast, so games like Indianapolis 500 The Simulation, 40 Sports Driving, better known as Stunts, are just perfect to demonstrate the strengths and weaknesses of a system like this. I already launched 40 Sports Driving, the Mindscape release of Stunts. I'm running this in emulated EGA graphics. This way it runs a bit smoother than in MCGA. This game is very hardware hungry. Even though Stunts can be played on an 8088 XT class machine, a 286-16 is still fighting hard to display big racetracks at an acceptable speed. Even on a 386 DX40 you might still notice some slowdowns when driving on tracks with lots of trackside objects. Right now I'm driving on the default circuit. This only has few trackside objects, so the game runs smooth enough to have some fun. Even today, Stunts has a huge fan community around it, but I still think the game doesn't get the attention it deserves. Nearly everyone I know who played this game in the early 90s remembers it in a good way, so I think it is a sad thing that the developers seem to have forgotten about it. There were no sequels, you rarely find in-depth information about the game, and from what I have read about it, they even lost the source code or deleted it. There was even a finished Sega Genesis / Mega Drive version of this game, but they never released it. I really wonder, where in the world is all that stuff right now? Is it really gone? We might never know. Now let's switch to an external view, and you can clearly see that the game speed has dropped a bit. That's mainly due to the huge amount of polygons that were displayed right now. Now I want to show you a real masterpiece of game design. Indianapolis 500, the simulation, the first racing simulation from Papyrus, made back in 1989. This game is extremely well made, at least the PC version. It's highly optimized for maximum speed on any system. A 286-16 won't have any troubles running this. I also played this on a 10 MHz 8088 with only 512 Ks of RAM, and it was still playable, of course, on low details. But this is a 286, a smoking hot top-end machine, nearly 4 times as fast as a 10 MHz 8088 machine. So we could enjoy the Indianapolis 500 with 32 AI drivers on the track. Extremely good physics and all that at maximum frames per second. This is maybe the best racing experience you can get on a 286. For a 10 laps race, I always choose the Lola. This is the fastest car in the game when tuned properly. But maybe it's also the most unreliable car in the game. But a 10 laps race should be no problem for the Lola. Ooh, VTEC just kicked in, yo. I totally forgot about the stagger. Almost did a copy of Kevin Cogan's crash in this race. I think that brown and white car should represent Danny Sullivan's Miller High Life Penske. It also has the same starting number as Danny Sullivan had in 1989. I just made contact. Let's watch the replay of that incident. That's probably the same thing that happened to Little Al back in the 1989 Indy 500. That brown car was very lucky, I guess. Oh no, I made contact again. I'm pretty sure that I would get black flagged for this in real life, so I will drive to the pits and then we will move on to the next game. Before we leave the racing genre, let's pay a quick visit to Race Drivin, the sequel to Hard Drivin. This also has 3D polygon environments. Race Drivin is an arcade classic made by Atari, which sadly got a lot of very poor conversions to other systems. The DOS version is okay when compared to other console ports, but also lacks all the great car physics the coin-op version had. I want to apologize for my driving skills in this game. I'm virtually still driving that Lola Indy car. Now I have something special for you, a real stress test for this 286. We are going to play Alone in the Dark. My boxed copy of this game recommends me at least to have a 386 CPU, but the minimum CPU class required to play this game is a 286 CPU. I will just fast forward the copy protection screen. It took me a while until I found the correct solution. I always stick with Conby in Alone in the Dark 1. His 3D character model is ugly, but I haven't found a word yet to describe the female character model. It's just so hard to look at. I can actually trigger a funny glitch in this opening scene. If I would run this game with 8 MHz instead of 16, the car will steer right into the swamp and turn some circles in there. I will show you that at the end of this video. It's pretty hilarious. So Carnby got out of the car and is walking smoothly until the screen is changing. You can see the hard drive gets pretty busy right now. I think we could improve the performance of Alone in the Dark on a 286 by adding a compact flash card to the system. There are several compact flash to IDE adapters out there. It shouldn't be a big deal to get that modification done. I'm actually thinking about to try that later. It's quite interesting for me to see Alone in the Dark 1 again. I never did a full playthrough of this game, but recording this footage really gets me in the mood to do so. And yeah, I have an idea. Let's put that compact flash card in at the end of this video and see how it will work that way. The rooms should load a lot faster from a compact flash card than from my old Seagate hard drive. And yeah, if this will help to increase the performance of Alone in the Dark on this 286, I will maybe do a full playthrough of Alone in the Dark on this machine. The only thing that I remember from Alone in the Dark 1 is that you have to push that cabinet right in front of the window, or else a demonic undead baby bird, oversized raptor bird will jump through this window. And you will have to push that chest over the trapdoor on the ground if you don't want a zombie to enter the attic. As you can see, camera 2 just stopped recording. I did only notice that when also camera 1 stopped recording, they both reached the maximum file size of 4 gigs per capture. That's probably the sad story about FAT32 formatted storage devices. I highly apologize for the inconvenience. Now that's the moment when also camera 1 stopped recording. And as you can hear in the back, the zombie is beating the crap out of Carnby while I'm desperately trying to get my cameras recording again. So my cameras are back just in time to capture the final moments of this fight. The zombie's dead once again, and yeah, we will move on to the next game. In my last video about this high-screen computer, I showed you how Day of the Tentacle performs on this machine. Today I want to show you how Sam & Max Hit the Road will run on this 286-16. Sam & Max Hit the Road was released in November of 1993, the same year Day of the Tentacle was released. Graphics-wise, these two games look very similar to each other, but it seems that Sam & Max is a bit more advanced on the technical side. While there are absolutely no problems to play through Day of the Tentacle completely on a 286, you will definitely encounter some problems with Sam & Max. I have the boxed copy of the floppy version right here, and yeah, this sticker could be considered as a warning to 286 owners. A 386 is strongly recommended.
Friends? We've only gone out together 3 times, and already you're telling me you just want to be friends? You never gave me a chance, and for that, you'll fry like a pork sausage.
It's not that I don't like you, it's just that, well, you're too nice a guy, I guess. I think I'd rather go out with someone more a bit unpredictable.
Hello. This doesn't look like the Lincoln Tunnel, Sam. Looks to me like a marginally volatile hostage situation, Max. Ooh, does this mean we get to kick some puffy white mad scientist butt? Can't think of a reason not to. You'll be of no use, freelance police. With the flip of a lever, my ungrateful lunch date will be reduced to a half cup of disoriented atomic matter.
I knew he wasn't a real doctor.
Shall I confront, subdue, and pummel the suspected perpetrator, Sam? Sick him up, little buddy. Ooh.
The intro was playing fine, maybe a bit slower than on a 386 system, but yet nothing to complain about. The trouble will start later when we arrive at the carnival. I'm trying to skip these scenes right now, but it won't let me. Sorry for that. This game makes it absolutely worth having an MT32. What do you think? And something bizarre will happen at the carnival. Personally, I wouldn't mind if the game speed would stay like this, but it will get really bad at the carnival. You will see that in a few moments. These scenes seem to take forever in the floppy version. The talkie version is definitely the one to go for. I tried to run the talkie version on this 286, but it needs a memory manager. I tried it with the hardware EMS option, but the game keeps telling me that it would still need a 386 CPU and EMM 386 installed. I think the game is using 32-bit protected mode, so probably there is no chance to run the talkie or CD version on a 286, but let me know if you know a way to get around this. I didn't try to run the game with any other memory managers yet. It would be nice to see the talkie version on this 286, but in the end it would still be just for fun. The game is much better enjoyed on a fast 386 or higher. This is really crawling right now. That's not the way you want to play Sam & Max. This will happen from time to time. I can't really tell what's causing this. Maybe the memory is full or something like that. There are several animated sprites in the background. But for example, if we would enter the Tunnel of Love on the Carnival, which also has animated background graphics, everything would be okay, at least no massive slowdowns like this. For the final part of this demonstration, I want to show you Geoff Crammond's Formula 1 Grand Prix. I have to start this from a boot disk because we need some more free conventional memory. Since this is DOS 6.22, which allows you to create a config sys file with different memory configurations, there is usually no need for boot disk anymore, but we will start the game this way so you can watch the 286 working on that one too. You can still read LucasArts games on the MT32 display. That's because the MT32 is still programmed for Sam & Max Hit the Road, but that's no problem. We will start Formula 1 Grand Prix with Sound Blaster sounds only. I highly prefer the Sound Blaster sounds for the engine noises. Let's just try a quick race. I am driving as Carlos Sanchez. Carlos Sanchez is the fictional name for Ayrton Senna in this game. It looks to me that these are the default settings for a quick race. I probably can't drive as good as Ayrton, so I will switch to another driver later. Let's just try this once. In this game you can adjust the frame rate all by yourself, which means that if you have a slow system like this 286 you can lower the frame rate to 8 frames for example, so the game plays faster, but you will also get more frame skips. If you set the frame rate too high on a slow system, the game becomes very slow. All the frames per second will be rendered in real time, which means that the game will play very slow on a slow system in order to achieve that. I know this is confusing, but it helps a lot to make the game playable on a huge variety of systems. Luigi Rivellini. That's actually Riccardo Patrese in real life, teammate to Nigel Mansell. Fortunately, the game allows you to change the fictional names to the real drivers' names. I guess it was a licensing thing back then. You can even find the real name for each fictional driver written in the manual, so it was up to you. A clever move by MicroProse, I think, to avoid licensing issues. This is the game options menu. You can see the frame rate is set to 8.1 frames per second, and just moments ago you could see how the game worked with that. I think it was fast enough for playing on a 286. Of course I disabled the textures, but everything else is on high detail, so no missing trackside objects and stuff like that. The game was originally released for the Amiga. In the Amiga version you cannot change the frame rate in-game. You will need an extra tool for that. If I remember right, the frame rate on the Amiga was locked to 8 frames or 8.5 frames per second, but with a third-party tool you could change the frame rate to get better performance on faster Amiga systems. They built that in for the PC version. I think they did that because when F1 GP was released in 1992, there were already fast 486 systems available to the public. And 1992 was also that year when the first 486 DX2 processors and the local bus were introduced. And at that time, people were using probably 286, 386 and fast 486 systems at home, so the game was designed to be adjustable in order to play well on each type of these systems. This is my favorite Formula 1 game ever, so I've tested it on several different configurations. The game will run at maximum frames per second on a 386 DX40, but only if textures are disabled. For playing the game with textures enabled at maximum frame rate, I would recommend you a 486 system, a 40 MHz CPU and a local bus graphics card. With all that frame skip going on, the game is much harder to play on a slow system than on a faster system. You will lose the sense of speed, so you can't really see if you're slowing down enough to take the next corner. It's maybe just the thing you will have to get used to on a slow system. I highly prefer to play this game on a 486 DX2 machine, but let's say you only had a 286 machine back in the days. I think the performance is pretty good for that. It could be a lot worse, I think. Maybe you will get some extra performance out of a Harris 25 MHz 286 CPU. For this session, I destroyed enough cars to call it a day. So that was Geoff Crammond's Formula 1 Grand Prix on a 286 16 MHz computer. As you can see, the 286 hardware is still there. So let's try to play Alone in the Dark from a compact flash card. I connected the CF adapter to the ID bus quick and easy. There's also a jumper for master slave on the adapter. I'm using a 1 GB Transcend compact flash card. It surprised me that this did work on the first try. The only thing that has changed is that the hard drive LED on the front panel is now permanently on. I'm using the same drive parameters for the compact flash card as for the Seagate hard drive. I haven't figured out the correct parameters for the compact flash card yet. If I would use the CF card permanently in the system with these parameters, I'm pretty sure that I would get write errors sooner or later. Another big surprise is that DOS and Norton Sysinfo actually do recognize the full capacity of the Transcend CF card without a dynamic drive overlay, so it may be that this mainboard does not have the famous 504 MB hard drive barrier, but this would require further testing with correct drive parameters and so on. So let's see if a compact flash card can really improve the performance of Alone in the Dark on a 286.
Two.